Hello,
Hi.
here we are.
What I want to talk about today is inflammatory foods. You know, the medical profession is really putting a lot of emphasis on
hmm
inflammatory foods and how they lead to heart disease, high cholesterol levels, high blood pressure, arthritis, on and on and on. We've known that for a long time. And we know that all of those things can really be impacted by high nutrient dense whole foods, the eating plan that we're always recommending. So, what are inflammatory foods? Well, that's what I certainly was raised on. It's been the North American
Mm.
standard diet for many years.
So maybe that's why we have so much chronic disease in North America, because the standard of North American diet is very inflammatory.
And that inflammation also leads to obesity.
Mm.
So, no wonder there's an obesity epidemic
Yeah.
today. Anyway, what it is meat and dairy. Um, Poultry is also included. Then you've got any of the processed foods, bread, chips,
Mm.
crackers, things in a box, processed cereals. And then you've got oils. Most oils actually are inflammatory.
Well, what maybe just mention what the anti-inflammatory
Yeah,
oils are a little bit.
avocado oil and olive oil.
Mm.
Even coconut oil is anti-inflammatory, but very high in saturated fat. So you want to be careful of that one. And then, of course, alcohol. All sugar foods are very inflammatory, and any caffeinated beverages like diet drinks or
Wow.
those things.
You've kind of described the North American diet.
Yeah,
That's
for
amazing.
sure.
Yeah.
So if you want info on how to shift, how to eat high nutrient dense plant-based foods, let us know. Contact me above, press the little tab there, or make a comment to us below and we'll send you our high nutrient dense plant-based food plan. The interesting thing, as I mentioned before, so many of the doctors in the US now are really promoting high nutrient dense plant-based. We know why, because we've been living it for a long time and helping people with it, but we're so grateful that they're finally recognizing the connection to poor health and food, the way we eat.
Yeah, our bodies are designed to be healthy. You know, because there's so much chronic disease in North America, it seems like, well, it must be just the nature of life to be sick.
Yeah, true.
But, the medical profession approaches it trying to address symptoms instead of cause. And when we go to a high nutrient dense meal plan, then suddenly all the inflammation starts to disappear. It's been known for a long time. It's like 80% of all disease has inflammation at its basis.
Yeah.
And so by going to high nutrient dense foods, suddenly there's no more inflammatory input from our diet, and these conditions start falling away. So, it's...
Yeah, the question becomes for all of us, certainly for us too, is how do we make the shift? We have all these habits of eating the North American standard diet, meat, potatoes, and salad, occasionally the salad. How do I make that shift?
Yeah, well, I guess what I wanted to talk about a bit is, what are habits and why do we have them?
Good.
And habits are the mind's way of really conserving energy in a way. It's kind of like, what's the value of tying my shoes? I mean, I do not think about how to tie a shoe anymore.
Yeah.
And that saves me so much. You know how much energy I put into trying to tie a shoe when I think I learned when I was about 2.5 or 3 years old.
Sweet.
My older brother knew how to do it. My
great.
father knew how to do it. I had to know how to do it. And, it took a lot of energy. And once I got it, that kind of muscle memory was there, I never had to think about it again. So I had established a habit. It's the nature of the mind to create habits, routines, however you want to say it, so that it doesn't have to expend a lot of energy on staying alive, and then its energy can be dealing with whatever else needs to be addressed to really stay alive. Our minds are kind of like survival machines. They're there to keep us aware of what we need to pay attention to stay alive. So it's a very natural part of human development and the nature of being human to create habits with the mind. And the thing to realize is that all of these habits aren't who we really are. So often I used to think, well, I'm a shy person because I have a habit of kind of withdrawing in social situations. That was the way I kind of dealt with insecurity in social situations. So I put this label on myself as being shy, and it was like, that's what who I am, what I am. But that really isn't who I am. That's just habitual thinking.
Yeah.
And when it comes to food and making the change to high nutrient dense food, we all create habits around food. The foods we buy, the foods we like, the routines we have for preparing them so we can get out the morning, get out the door quickly in the morning, those kinds of things. So habits really serve us. There's a place for it. But they can also be developed around things like just grabbing a coffee and a donut in the morning, which a lot of people still do, which is surprising to me. Or maybe it's not a donut now, it's a chocolate-filled croissant. But, it's the kind of thing I saw my father and his brother doing when I was young. They'd get together and they'd have coffee and donuts. And it's like, no wonder they had the conditions they had when they got older. But so habits are useful. It's the way that we conserve energy and we make life simple. But when we discover that we have developed habits around things that are not really helpful for us, then we want to have to change. So you wanted to say something about how do we make change?
Well, the way that we make change is basically when we have an urge or a surge come up to eat chocolate chip or croissant or whatever it is that we know is inflammatory and not great for the body, we just relax. Just stop, relax for a moment, and let whatever's driving that busy mind to reach for relax. And as we do that, we connect with our body's wisdom. And we usually have a very clear indication of, no, that's not the best thing. How about an apple or an orange?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That is interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So what Connie's pointing at, too, that I find so fascinating is that thought is always changing. It may seem like when that urge comes up for that chocolate chip cookie or whatever it is, it's so real and it's going to be with me until I satisfy it. But the truth is, if I give it a little bit of time, suddenly that is gone.
It moves right on through.
Moves right on through.
Yeah.
And my mind settles.
And when we were in our Organic Healing Foods restaurant days, we noticed that if there was a lot of tension, which creates this busy mind, that people would try to relax that with food, with high-fat, high-sugar foods. And it gives a momentary relief, and then it creates a habit of reaching for what we know isn't great in terms of our results.
Yeah. So creating habits is the nature of the mind, and it can serve us, or it can actually be a detriment. So the value is recognizing that it is the mind. It's just our thinking that is playing out almost like on this screen of consciousness, almost like we're in this movie, the movie of my life. And in one moment there's chocolate chip cookie has to be eaten, and then the scene passes on to the next one. When we recognize that life is constantly changing, almost like the weather passing through the sky, we know that it's going to change. And as we recognize that some of our habits may not be serving us, just that recognition can give us pause. And as we pause, the mind settles a bit more, and it's not quite as compelling, and there's more wisdom. There's better solutions can come.
Yeah, I've said this a lot, but I'll say it again. As this busy mind just settles, just take a moment and relax. Then we access this inner wisdom that's always wanting us to thrive, that's always moving us toward innate health. It's there all the time if we just take a moment and check in.
So lovely. Wow. Thanks so much.
Yeah, now, recipe.
Oh, recipe, that's right.
Yeah, we're doing black beluga lentils. Why are they called beluga? Because they look like caviar. They pasted that name on them. They are delicious. They don't require any soaking, quick to cook, quick to enjoy. And we're doing a Mexican version with a fresh tomato and a red pepper and lots of wonderful herbs and spices. So check it out below and give it a go. Take that step toward high nutrient dense whole foods that people rave about our recipes when they try them. So give them a go.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.